Ever feel like people take advantage of your kindness? Like you're constantly saying yes when you really want to say no? Maybe you feel guilty for putting yourself first, or you worry that setting boundaries will push people away. When you don't have strong boundaries, life can feel overwhelming. Relationships become draining, stress piles up, and your mental health suffers. But it doesn't have to be this way. There's a way to take back control and protect your well-being without feeling selfish or guilty. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people think of them as walls that shut others out, but in reality, boundaries are about creating a healthier, more balanced life. They define what is and isn't acceptable in our interactions with others, ensuring that our emotional and mental well-being stays intact. Without clear boundaries, it's easy to fall into patterns of overcommitting, people-pleasing, and neglecting your own needs. You might feel exhausted from constantly accommodating others or struggle with resentment when people don't reciprocate the same energy you give. There are different types of boundaries: emotional, physical, time-based, digital, and energetic. Emotional boundaries help you separate your feelings from others, preventing you from carrying the weight of someone else's emotions. If you constantly absorb the stress and pain of others, you may find yourself feeling emotionally drained without understanding why. Physical boundaries relate to personal space and physical touch, ensuring that you feel comfortable in your interactions. Some people are naturally more affectionate, while others prefer more space. Knowing your comfort level and communicating it is key. Time boundaries ensure that your time isn't constantly being drained by obligations or others' demands. If you often feel like there's never enough time for yourself because of work, family, or social commitments, you likely need stronger time boundaries. Digital boundaries help you control your online presence and social media exposure, preventing constant availability that can lead to burnout. Energetic boundaries protect you from absorbing negativity from those around you. This is especially important if you spend time around people who frequently vent, complain, or bring drama into your life. When these boundaries are weak, it becomes difficult to maintain a sense of self. You might start prioritizing others' needs over your own, losing track of what truly matters to you. Some people realize too late that their lack of boundaries has led them to a place where they don't even recognize themselves anymore. But the good news is, boundaries can be built at any time. The sooner you start, the sooner you regain control over your life. How do you know if your boundaries aren't strong enough? One of the biggest red flags is feeling like you have no control over your own time or energy. If you constantly feel drained after interacting with certain people, that's a sign your boundaries are too weak. You might also feel like people expect you to always be available, whether it's answering texts immediately, dropping what you're doing to help someone, or feeling guilty for taking time for yourself. Another major sign is struggling to say no. Do you agree to things out of obligation, even when you don't want to? Maybe you tell yourself it's easier to just go along with things rather than risk upsetting someone. But over time, this can lead to frustration, resentment, and burnout. When you don't set clear limits, people may unintentionally take advantage of your kindness simply because they've never been told otherwise. Resentment is another red flag. If you often feel frustrated that people don't respect your time, energy, or personal space, it's likely because you haven't clearly communicated your boundaries. Without clarity, people assume you're okay with certain behaviors, when in reality, you might be feeling overwhelmed or undervalued. Over-apologizing is another clue. If you frequently say sorry for things that don't require an apology, it might mean you struggle to assert your needs. You shouldn't have to apologize for saying no, needing rest, or prioritizing your well-being. Another indicator is emotional exhaustion. If you leave interactions feeling mentally and emotionally drained, it's a sign that you're overextending yourself. Sometimes, even small requests from others can feel overwhelming when your boundaries are weak. You may also notice that you avoid certain people or situations just to prevent yourself from being put in uncomfortable positions. Finally, pay attention to how you react to stress. If you feel constantly overwhelmed or anxious, it may be because your personal space, both emotional and physical, is being invaded too often. This is your mind's way of telling you that something needs to change. Once you recognize these signs, you can take steps to protect yourself and create a healthier, more fulfilling life. Before we dive into this section, if you're finding this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and brings you more content on mental well-being. Now, let's talk about how to actually set boundaries. The key is clarity and confidence. The first step is identifying what your boundaries are, what drains you, what makes you feel uncomfortable. Once you know your limits, it's time to communicate them. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that others should just know their boundaries. But unless you clearly express them, people will operate based on their own expectations, not yours. Use direct but respectful language. Instead of saying, "I don't know if I can," say, "I won't be able to." Instead of making excuses, be honest. "I need time for myself," or "I can't take on extra work right now." The way you deliver your message matters. Keep your tone calm and firm. If someone pushes back, don't feel pressured to over-explain. Boundaries don't require justification. Consistency is key. If you set a boundary but let it slide the next time, people won't take it serious. The more you reinforce your limits, the easier it gets. If someone keeps pushing, repeat your boundary without getting defensive. One technique that can help is the broken record method, calmly repeating your boundary without engaging in unnecessary debate. For example, if someone insists you do something you don't want to, simply say, "I appreciate your perspective, but I can't do that," and repeat it as needed. Lastly, let go of the fear of disappointing others. Some people won't like your boundaries, but that's okay. Your mental health is more important than trying to please everyone. People who truly respect and care about you will accept your boundaries, even if it takes time for them to adjust. Setting boundaries is one thing, sticking to them is another. The moment you start enforcing your boundaries, some people will resist. They may guilt trip you, test your limits, or try to make you feel selfish. This is completely normal and should be expected. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will often be the ones who struggle the most with your new ones. They may feel threatened or uncomfortable because your limits challenge their own sense of entitlement to your time and energy. The key is not to back down or apologize for protecting yourself. Remind yourself why you set this boundary in the first place. Reflect on the toll it was taking on your mental and emotional health before you decided to make this change. If someone repeatedly ignores your limits, ask yourself if this relationship is truly healthy or if it's become toxic. Enforcing boundaries doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life completely, but it does mean adjusting the way you interact with them. You might need to limit certain interactions or change how often you engage with people who consistently disrespect your boundaries. Practicing self-affirmation can also help. "I am allowed to prioritize my well-being." This can be especially useful if you struggle with guilt or self-doubt. Every time you enforce a boundary, remind yourself that you are taking care of yourself, and that is both healthy and necessary. Remember, you are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are only responsible for protecting your own mental and emotional health. It's also important to recognize that not everyone will respect your boundaries, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to be in your life at every stage. Sometimes enforcing boundaries is a way to weed out unhealthy or toxic relationships. At the same time, it can also bring you closer to people who respect and value your well-being. Lastly, surround yourself with people who respect and support your boundaries. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual understanding, trust, and respect. When you establish strong boundaries, you attract healthier, more positive connections into your life. And those relationships, rooted in respect, will help reinforce your sense of self-worth, making it easier to continue protecting your peace and emotional health. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. They allow you to protect your energy, prioritize your mental health, and create healthier relationships. If this video helped you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on personal growth and mental well-being. Take care, and remember, protecting your peace is always worth it.